once a basket goes, it's an unassisted trick where basically you have a top person who's performing a skill and is relying on 4 or 3 people underneath her to catch her. Okay? We teach these top drills to start doing these bigger tricks and work in regression. And the most important thing is really not the trick itself, it's the people underneath. Okay? Obviously, if you don't have the people underneath, your basket's not going to be any good. Okay? It can become a very, very scary situation. So really I want to touch a lot on safety today, just proper training, good technique for bases as far as how to catch a basket toss, especially a basket toss gone wrong. Okay, that's the best thing to learn when you start doing basket tossing. You want them to understand if something goes wrong, what do you do? Okay, I try to use a lot of analogies and think about it like this. If you have a garage, you have a bowling ball on a high shelf, and it starts to fall and you're standing there, what's your natural reaction? You probably step back and get out of the way so it doesn't fall on you. Okay? In baskets, we want to teach you to go get that bowling ball, to make sure that it doesn't fall, to get your hands on it, to make sure that it stays or that it's caught. Okay? That's not something that's natural. Your instincts is to get out of the way if something's coming at you, especially at a high rate of speed or in an awkward position. Okay, so I'll go ahead and bring our bases out here. Let's talk about proper stance. The most successful stance for you to catch in basket tosses. A lot of times when you notice Holly and Krista are different heights, okay, that shouldn't make a huge difference. Now obviously I wouldn't want to put someone with my height and Krista together if all need be, because more than likely what's going to happen is I'm going to be a lot faster in that basket toss, so it's going to tend to go this way. Okay, just because I'm taller, my flick is going to be higher, everything's going to tilt at the top of the basket. Okay, so if at all possible, try to match up your bases where they're somewhat similar. They don't have to be perfect. Okay? Now, I hear a lot of people say, okay, well, if this base is taller, what you need to do is you need to have the taller base go ahead and spread. Okay? Now, what's bad about this is this kind of puts her in an awkward position if something goes wrong. It's not as natural for her to move quickly if her feet are spread apart from her. Okay? So what I want to do right here is I want to go ahead and have her keep her feet together and either squat at her knees or she can stagger one foot slightly back to make her shorter. Okay? This way, now she's going to match up in height, and it's very easy for her to move quickly any direction that a basket may travel. Okay? So that's the first thing, is your bases, stance, their technique, and their stance. Okay? A lot of people think in baskets, the most important thing is that your top row can do all these tricks and that your bases have to be really strong. Not that they're not strong, but I've seen small people throw, not that you're big people. Okay? I've seen small people throw just as high baskets as guys my size. Okay? The key to a good height or a good height in a basket is speed. Okay? The faster you are, the higher the trick's going to be. You want to increase the skill as when the top person jumps in, you want to increase her rate of speed going in an upwards direction. Now, a lot of that comes with timing. Okay? Your bases and your top person have to work together. Okay? Alright, we'll go ahead and start with the stance. As far as when they grab in the stance, okay, like I said, they want to keep their feet somewhat close. They're going to bend at their hips. Notice that their backs are up. Okay, you see a lot of times girls like to do this. Okay, now what you're doing is you're throwing this basket toss with your back. You're not using your legs, you're using your back. Okay, so I really want to make sure that their bottom's under, they're keeping their backs up. Big thing here, if they do this, this also keeps the head out of the way. So when that top person jumps in, we don't want collision at this point. Okay, because if we have collision at the very beginning, then obviously something's going to go bad as it starts to go. Okay? Notice that their arms, okay? They lock up in their basket grip. They keep their arms straight and they want to try to keep them loose. Okay? Don't get here and think that I want to tense up and be all strong and muscles. Okay? So right here, what I really want to make sure is that my arms are extended, that we get this grip. A lot of people do it different ways. Some people cross fingers, things like that. I think it's best just to grab your wrists. Okay? You start worrying about crossing fingers and things like that, it gets confusing jumping in the basket. Okay, so now the big thing here is when the top person jumps in, they want to go down, they want to lower to this point right here. Think about it, tell your kids or the people that you coach that you want to jump as high as you can off the ground. So I'll use Holly as a demonstration, jump as high as you can. Okay, now when she jumps, you'll see a lot of people jump in the basket and they want to go lower their hips where their knees are at. So they'll squat all the way down, now try to jump high. Okay? She can still jump, but it's slower. Okay? So I want her to think about she's going to run up and jump and touch a basketball goal. That's the position that I want her to get in. Okay? Once they're in that position, now as the top person's going to load in, they're still going to stay close, keeping their shoulders up. The biggest thing here is what they want to do is they want to make sure as the basket starts to stand up, it happens with your shoulders first. Shrug through your shoulders. As the shoulders come up, now you're going to think about the elbows. When the elbows get up, that's where the explosion happens to the middle. Okay, so it's almost like a three-part process. Okay, as they lift, they want to make sure their shoulders, they're shrugging. That way they're helping initiate that upward direction. Okay, from there now we're following through. We're getting our elbows up. We try to make our hands catch up with our elbows. That's going to develop more speed. Okay, a lot of time when I tell people that I coach is I want you to think about every time you throw a basket, I want your elbows and your knees to lock out at the same time. Okay, and so they sit there and they'll think about it. They're like, how is that possible to do that? It's not possible. Okay, but if you're thinking that as soon as my elbows are locking out, that my knees are locked out, that forces me to use my legs. Okay, so now the explosion is going to happen. I'll have them just go through like they're doing a toss, full speed. As the top person jumps in, they want to think about standing up as quick as they can. They're going to flick through their fingertips. Notice where their hands go. They go immediately to an extended position. They do not move from this position. Okay, you have to keep them extended. You'll watch as they come up. They think about lifting through their shoulders. When they catch their top person, they're going to catch through their fingertips and then lower and use their legs to catch. Okay? How many of you had people who hit heads? Okay? Usually what happens there, the reason they're hitting heads is just because they're a little too far apart. Okay? That force coming down, and especially with females, are not going to be, well, most are not going to be naturally strong enough to catch that momentum coming down so quickly, so it's going to generate them to come forward. Okay? So the thing general rule of thumb I tell them is you want to be as wide as your top person. Okay? Now, obviously, if I were doing this, I'd probably go a little bit wider. That wasn't really that funny. That's good. No one laughed. Okay? But normal, they want to be as wide as their top person. That way, they're going to fit comfortably in this position. That way, there's no resistance, or it's not going to land on their chest. Okay? So that's the first thing. Okay, let's talk about the front and back spots. Okay, now, for the back spot, as a back spot, you do not have to help your top person in. If your back spot is lifting them in, we should probably step back for a second and say, should they be doing a basket toss? Okay? For the top person, just jump in a little bit, stop. Okay? Stop. When she jumps in, she should be able to get to that position by herself. She's hopping in that basket, she's putting her weight in her arms, and she's making sure that she lifts there. Okay, so the back person, the back spot, she's designed to help guide that person, not to lift them and put them in. Okay, if she's lifting, she's not really going to have time to help a lot with the basket toss. Okay, now her job as the basket loads in, as it comes in, she wants to get underneath her base's hands. Now her job is to break through the main bases. She wants to try to beat them to the top. So as this basket starts to stand up, we're going slow motion. Mallory's going to think about push through her hands, and then she wants to break right through the middle. Okay? For your front spot and your back spot, that's their job. They want to help increase the speed of this basket toss. The only way they can do that is to try to break through their base's hands to generate that power from the bottom. Okay, let's talk about the front spot. Front spot's the exact same thing. Just now, your only job is, as it jumps in, you're initially going to start at the beginning of the basket, and then once you explode, the most important thing is to obviously get out of the way. Don't stand there and watch and marvel at what you just did. Okay? So the big thing here is once you throw the front of the basket, Carrie, what she'll do is they throw the basket, they'll stand up through, Carrie can step to the side. Now you see some people who use their front spot to assist the cradle. That's okay. I mean, it's okay to do. I don't prefer it. But the thing that you want to do, the most important thing is the front spot. You want to make sure that once you finish the toss, you step back and don't get hit with feet. Okay? Now, something that you have to watch for, especially with front spots, is they have a tendency, because they get in so quick, is they want to stand up and get out of the way at the same time as they're throwing the toss. Okay? All that's going to do to your top person is pull her feet from out under her. Okay? So you've got to really make sure that all of my bases, they all stay in, they complete the toss, and then this person can move. Then obviously, all three of their arms are up in the air ready to catch. Okay? Next thing before we start demonstrating some actual tossing. Okay? Big thing when they catch. Okay? Who's responsible for catching second? Stephanie is responsible for catching herself. If she catches herself every single time, she will never fall. She won't fall because now you have 3 people catching, or actually 4 people catching. Okay? So you don't want to try to do baskets where they put their arms out here. This is not holding themselves. Now they're responsible for catching all this body weight. If Stephanie grabs around the shoulders and pulls them into her, okay, she's helping catch herself and take that shock out through the base's legs. Okay, so that's something very important. Mallory, when she catches, okay, big thing here is she wants to think about putting her elbows into the shoulders. Okay, you don't want to get much further in there because that's when you start getting whacked in the head. You want to think about putting your elbows to your top real shoulders to catch. Now you are responsible for the most important part of the body, which is the head and the shoulders. Okay, that protects your performer, that protects your top person. Okay, so when she goes, she's really going to think about resisting when she catches, pulling up through her arms. Now, if Stephanie's doing her job in catching, now she's going to have automatic resistance, and it's easy for Holly to slow that down. Okay, does everyone understand that? All right, let's show a straight right. Good. Okay, now, very good on a straight ride. Okay, I just wanted to go over the cradle technique of this. Okay, notice that as soon as that basket went up, okay, nothing changes for them at all. They extend through their toss. They want to make sure that they keep their hands up high, catch with their fingertips, absorb with their legs. Okay, you didn't hear this big pound on them. Okay, because they're absorbing. Okay, if you're hearing that pound, more than likely it's your bases trying to be strong. You just stand there and catch. Okay, it's not really good for either the bases or the top. Okay, imagine falling off a 10-foot wall to a hard surface. That's probably what it would feel like. Okay, so the big thing there, we made sure that Stephanie stood up in her basket. When she came down for the dismount, she actually opens her arms up and she grabs. Okay. Let's talk about technique with top person. Okay, how to get more height in your basket as a top person. First thing is, when you hop in, just hop in. Okay, first thing here is we want to make sure that your shoulders stay up. Okay, we don't want to stick your bottom out like this. Okay, because what's going to happen is going to make it a lot harder for you to stand up and go in an upwards direction. Okay, so she wants her shoulders to stay up. Her knees are bent. Her weight is in her arms, not in her feet. Okay, if she's pushing, if the weight is in her feet, now she's pushing down on the hands of the bases. So we really want to concentrate that she's putting all the weight in her arms, and then from there, as they start to stand up, she's going to think the same exact thing by taking the timing with them. As it starts to stand up, she's going to push off the shoulders, straighten her legs, and think about lifting and pulling up through her shoulders. Okay? This is very important. It's something that you can have them do at the very beginning, just to make sure they're able to do a good basket. It's just kind of like a dangle drill. So have you guys line up? Good drill for a basket. Have Stephanie hop into the load. Okay, what I want to see now is I want to see my bases let go of their hands and that she can hold herself there. Okay, now I know that she's able to put here. Good. Okay, now I know that she's able to hold her own body weight. Okay, that's very important when you jump in a basket. A lot of times, let's turn this to the side. A lot of times what you'll see, especially younger girls, when they go, they bend right here because they think this is the way to get height off the basket. As soon as they start to stand up, I'm going to push off at the same time. Okay? Believe it or not, your arms are not strong enough to propel you in a basket toss. It has nothing to do with your arms. The only thing that has to do with it is that your arms are locked out, the weight's in them, but you pushing like this isn't going to help you get height. Okay? It's actually going to hurt you. Okay? So the big thing here is, hop back in the load. I'm sorry, I'm going to make you guys work. Okay? The big thing here is we want to offer resistance. Arms are locked, okay? Now, she's just going to think about when she places her feet in, she's going to think about placing her toes at the beginning of, or the front of her hands, okay? Now, they should feel a lot of weight in their hands. Now, as they start to dip, that's where they're going to think the explosion's happening. From this point, as soon as they start to stand up, Stephanie's job is to stand up faster than the bases, okay? If you're having problems with basket tosses and they don't have a lot of height, okay, what I like to do is I like to make them throw a basket, and I want to watch what Stephanie's legs are doing when my bases, their hands are eye level. Okay? I bet you more times than not, you're going to find if it's a low basket, you're going to find that the top person's legs are still bent at this level. If they're bent, there's no way they're going to get height. Okay? Top people have to be aggressive and stand up quickly from the bottom. Have them demonstrate one more. Watch as she stands up. I want you to think about it. As soon as she gets to the bottom of their dip, she's going to think about standing up as quick as she can. She hops in here and stands. Okay? The faster she stands up, the quicker the basket's going to be, the higher the basket's going to be. Okay? Now, let's show you a bad one. Yeah. Let's do a bad one. Okay? A lot of times, this is what you'll see. Hopefully, they do this incorrectly. Okay? If she's real slow, she's not. That was probably a little over dramatic. But if she stands up and point up, is if she stands up slow, she's going to have a hard time doing tricks. Okay? You want maximum height, whether you're doing a toe touch, a kick, a tuck out, bike out, kick double, any type of basket, you want maximum height. Okay? That's the first thing you have to look at. Okay, so we'll show it one more time. Watch the explosion at the bottom. She hops in, it comes down, she's going to think about stand as quick as possible, and that's what happens. Okay, that's where we're going to get the height. Okay, that's the first thing that I would practice before trying to do any type of skill. You want to make sure that you can get a good high basket and that it's a controlled catch. Okay, now, will baskets move? Absolutely. There's very few baskets, I would say 8 out of 10 baskets will take a step once the top person goes. Okay, that's okay. Your bases need to understand that wherever your top person's hips are going, that's where the rest of her is going too. So they have to understand if it starts to move slightly, I'm watching, I see your hips start drifting, I want to step with it. Okay? That's what you want to do. Do not rely on your back squat. Okay? She will not be very happy once that lands. Okay? Anybody have any questions about proper technique as far as form throwing a basket?
Where's the correct?
Have any questions?
Where's the correct form of your arms?
I'm sorry?
The correct form of your arms?
Correct form for the top person.
Yeah, please.
Okay, top person. Okay, big thing here is once, same thing, like I said, using analogies, I want to tell Stephanie that I want her to think about jumping as high as she can and reach a basketball goal. Can she jump up as high as she can? Naturally, she's going to lift because she makes herself taller if she puts her arms up and pulls up through her shoulders. So now, as she comes off the basket, we want to do that same exact thing. She's going to jump as high as she can. Okay, but she's not actually jumping off the basket. She's just straightening her legs. Okay, so from here, as the basket starts to come up, she's going to think about lifting through those shoulders, pull the arms up, and reach in a touchdown motion, squeezing her body and her shoulders up as high as she can. Okay, if she relaxes at this point, okay, she's not going to get maximum height. She'll still go up in the air. Okay, but she's not going to get maximum height, and the form's going to be bad, especially when you start moving on to tricks. If you start doing any type of spinning things and your arms are out here, okay, you tend to drop with your shoulders. But if I'm pulling up with my shoulders, and as soon as I start to think about spinning, I'm still lifting with my shoulders to do my trick. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so big thing for top girls, that was a great question, is as you come off the basket, arms should immediately go up right beside your ears, reaching as high as you can. Okay? Other questions? Okay, moving on to specific tricks.